All right, welcome everyone to the Wyoming Women's Business Center's 2022 Business Education webinar series. Today's presentation is How to Market Yourself as an Artist. My name is Jessica Brower, and I'm the Marketing Director at the Wyoming Women's Business Center, and I'm going to be your speaker today. Before we get started, I do want to point out the Zoom control panel, likely on the bottom of your screen, and call attention to both the questions and the chat function. If you have any comments or questions during the webinar today, I'd like you to use those. And if you haven't yet, feel free to introduce yourself in that chat. I'd love to know where you're joining us from and what kind of work you do. You can see that some of us have already been chatting there. So this webinar is being recorded, and a link to access the recording via Zoom will be sent out to all registrants shortly after the live event today. So please feel free to share that link with your peers, your team, or friends who you think would enjoy what we share today. If you're watching this webinar live, a survey will launch shortly after we close the presentation. If you could please complete this, it does provide us and our funding partners with some really valuable information. And just as a reminder, all participants are muted to minimize any background noise. So again, if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and use that chat box or the questions panel. So we're going to start by going over some quick information about the WWBC in case you aren't familiar already. We're a nonprofit organization, and our mission is to enable and empower Wyoming entrepreneurs with a special emphasis on women. We do that through 5 distinct programs. The first is our business education webinars, which is what brought you here today. Our staff hosts these free 30-minute webinars every week. Next, we have our flagship education program called Dream Builder. This is a free facilitated 8-week virtual course hosted on Zoom that's for building or perfecting your business plan with the support of our business counselors. Additionally, we offer one-on-one business counseling. Next, we have our microloan program, which offers loans from $500 to $50,000 for businesses that have been denied from a traditional lending source. And lastly, we have the Artist Development Center that we run in conjunction with the Works of Wyoming store, which is physically located in Laramie, but also has an online shop. And what I really want to get across to you today is that we specialize in micro enterprises. And so what is a micro enterprise? It's a business that has less than 6 employees, and the majority are 1 or 2 person businesses. And these businesses were able to launch for under $35,000. So small businesses like yoga studios and hairstylists, in-home daycare providers, marketing consultants, photographers, these are all examples of our clients, as well as artists. So those of you joining today as artists, it's really important to remember that not all entrepreneurs are artists, but all artists are entrepreneurs. So all of these resources are here to support you and your work. So if you're not already a client of the WWBC and you'd like to be, it is quick and easy. You can sign up by going to wyomingwomen.org. You click on that red sign up now button at the top of the page. One last note before we get started. I'd like to thank our presenting sponsor, the Wyoming Arts Council, for their contribution to the Wyoming Women's Business Center. It is with their support for Wyoming's artists that we're able to offer this free education resource for you today. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started with a quick poll to feel out the virtual room here. So a poll should have just launched on your screen, and it asks, how would you describe your current marketing strategy? So go ahead and select whichever one best applies. I'm not marketing my work at all. I'm doing very little marketing for my work. I'm doing some marketing for my work, but I don't really know if it's working. I'm currently marketing for my work and I'm not really seeing the benefits. Or I'm currently marketing my work, I'm noticing the benefits and hoping to learn more. Give it just a few more moments. Looks like we have about 50% participation. All right. Still a few coming in. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end this and share the results with you. So we'll see, we have a little bit of everything, which is honestly kind of what I expected. But I'm glad to see that some of you are seeing benefits and not everybody is feeling frustrated. So hopefully we're able to get you some tips today that feel beneficial. So one of the statements I've heard the most from artists and entrepreneurs of all kinds is, I don't like marketing. It feels too salesy, which I understand. Aggressive sales tactics can feel inauthentic and incredibly vulnerable, especially if you're introverted or you're quiet. However, it's my assumption that everyone in this virtual room here wants to sell their work, and sales don't happen without marketing. And when you make sales and you're compensated for the work you create, you're able to keep making art, which ultimately is the goal, right? When you make sales, you're teaching the world around you to enrich their lives with art, which is incredibly valuable for the holistic health of our communities. When you make sales, you're supporting your peers in the arts by cultivating an ecosystem where art is compensated for, it's appreciated, and it's sought out. These are all really incredible, valuable wins, and incredible wins that are cultivated through marketing yourself. So it's not all bad. So we are going to get into some actionable steps, but I want to take some time to unpack the term marketing. According to the American Marketing Association, marketing is the activity, set of institutions, and processes for creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging offerings that have value for customers, clients, partners, and society at large. So chances are, whether you said in that poll that you are marketing or not, you are already creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging offerings that have value right now. So marketing can look like commercials and advertisements, social media posts and branded email blasts, posters and postcards and all of this. But marketing can also look like telling your friends about the gallery opening you're in, or sharing the link to your online shop with a reminder that Mother's Day is coming up. Could look like asking your family to come to your next show and asking the people who come and watch you play music to go buy a band t-shirt or a record from you. It could be sending an email to your list with your latest launch of works, whether that's a recently published essay or a new song, a painting, or a project of any medium that you're just excited about. It could also be reaching out to an artist in your community that you admire and just grabbing coffee or sending a little love their way. So marketing can be a lot of things, and that's what I hope you take away from that. Chances are you're already marketing yourself, and so give yourself some credit for that and hold on to that as we move forward. So we've established that marketing isn't bad, and maybe that it, is something you're already doing a little more than you realize. So we're going to chat about some steps to marketing yourself as an artist. And it turns out these steps are about the same as marketing yourself in anything, but I'm going to try to talk a little bit about doing it as an artist. So we'll go over these 6 steps. 1 is to know your audience. 2, identify your platform. 3, find your voice. 4, write to one person. 5, use a call to action. And 6, evaluate. Step number 1 is know your audience. If you've ever attended a webinar with me, this is familiar. Many of these things will be familiar. So know your audience. Who is your customer? Who is currently buying from you? Or who do you make your art for? Who do you think about when you're creating your art? What does their life look like? How do they spend their money? Where do they spend their time? What do they think about? An exercise that I recommend to everyone is to create a customer avatar. And all of this is a profile of your customer. So maybe you write down a list of traits Or maybe you even go as far as finding a photo of a person online that you use as this visual image of your customer. Maybe you draw a person. Now, this customer avatar is more extensive than the basic demographic information. And perhaps this is data that you can already see if you have social media profiles or if you've started to recognize patterns in who engages with your work. So for this avatar, you can start by identifying the basic demographic information: gender, age, location, socioeconomic information, etc. But then I want you to take it further. What are their personal values and goals? Are they passionate about climate change, gender equity, public lands? That's helpful to know. That's really helpful to know. Similarly, what are their challenges and their pain points? What are they struggling with in their world? What upsets them, makes them angry, makes them sad, makes them frustrated? What keeps them up at night? Content preference speaks to where are these customers getting their information? Do they read the newspaper every morning, or are they binging TikTok content? Do they browse coffee shop poster boards, or do they use Facebook events when they're deciding where they want to go with their family on weekends? So this last bullet point, I say deal breakers. And by this, I mean, what is non-negotiable for them? If they arrived at a store that had your product, what would compel them to walk away or decide not to purchase? So maybe that's related to pricing and their budget, or maybe that's a personal value and a stance or something that is incredibly important to them. Or maybe it's something simple like a certain kind of design element or stylistic choice. Now, I don't mention this as a way to spiral into negativity, but rather as another avenue to allow you to dig even deeper into the mindset of who your buyer is. Because the more information you're clear on, the more clear your marketing can be. And in marketing, clarity is key to quality. So after you create your customer avatar, you're going to identify your platform. So we've chatted about who's buying from you. Now we're going to bring it inward and we're going to think about you. I absolutely refuse to tell any entrepreneur to go to a marketing platform that feels torturous. And I don't believe you have to be on every channel. Just because there is Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and Pinterest and LinkedIn and YouTube and newspapers and magazines and posters and billboards and commercials, I don't think you need to be on all of them. I'd rather you pick one or two and to do those really well and to show up there consistently. So of course, thinking of your audience and where they consume content is really important too. If you know your audience is more likely to be on Facebook or Instagram, that's important to take into consideration. The fortunate part here is that a part of what makes a marketing platform feel like a good fit for you is the engagement. So ideally, the platforms that feel good to you will be the places where your audience is showing up and engaging with you, making it overall just a more exciting place to be. So when you consider your platform of choice, some things to consider are your strengths and weaknesses. Maybe you really enjoy photography or writing. Maybe graphic design is something that you've really wanted to dive into, or you just really enjoy playing with it. Or maybe you know that you really hate video or anything that requires you to spend more time on your phone. Next is how or where does your work shine? So we considered where do I shine as the person marketing my work? Now, what about the work that you're making? If you're a musician, still images probably aren't going to be the best way to market your work. Videos from your shows or clips from your songs are going to do a much better job. And if you're a photographer, your work probably shines best in photos as compared to taking live videos of you talking at the camera. Next is previous performance. By this, I mean, take into account what you've done before and how it performed. Have you noticed that videos get a lot more comments than still images? or that you get a lot more email subscribers when you send a monthly email versus a quarterly one. This is all really valuable information to keep in your pocket as you plan. And lastly, consider your audience. So we go back to that customer avatar and we ask ourselves, where is this audience at? Are they spending time in their email inbox? Or are they at that coffee shop poster wall? Are they scrolling TikTok? Or is the church's community bulletin more their style? Ideally, this place that they are is a place that you want to be too, or at least a place to start to experiment with. Next, find your voice. Again, emphasis on your here. There comes a point in marketing and marketing research where I feel that I have to tell everyone to look away from what everyone is doing and to just start. It can be so incredibly overwhelming to begin to look at examples of how other people market themselves. And I understand that it's a helpful tool to look at this, but at some point it's a distraction. And I imagine this probably resonates when it comes to making things creatively too. You know, one of the top pieces of feedback I get in these webinars is, we want more examples. And I get it, examples are so helpful until they're not, and they become a hindrance to you and you're making your own mark and creating your own voice. So your unique voice is important because your voice humanizes your brand and lets you take part in conversations naturally. And this is the part where that fear of being salesy can really be eliminated entirely. If you're speaking about your work with your voice, it won't sound salesy. It will sound like you're sharing about your work. Now, if you adopt the voice of another business that you saw on Instagram and you try to fake it and talk about your art, that might sound salesy or kind of weird. So take a deep breath, close your eyes, and think about, how would you talk to a friend about what you're sharing? So this graphic on the right is something I found that breaks down some of the important characteristics of voice. And this references social media specifically, but this is all valuable, whether you're writing a social media post or copy for a poster, if you're writing an email or reaching out in person and just having a conversation with a local business or a gallery or just an individual. So starting on the top left there in the purple, character and persona. What characteristics ring true of you when you speak of your work? Are you friendly and casual, warm and inviting? Or maybe you're more authoritative and professional. An example I always use when it comes to voice is to consider how marketing language would look for a clown store versus a defense attorney. So the experience of either of those are quite different. One is clowns, whereas the other one is trying to establish a kind of professionalism. So another good way to think of this is as a character in a book. If your brand or your work holistically was a character, what would their role look like? Next is tone in the green. So similarly, tone references this overall energy of your communication. Does it feel personal or does it feel clinical? So think about how a conversation with your long-term hairstylist feels like compared to a conversation with the urgent care doctor that you just met. The tone is different. Next is language in the orange box. How do you naturally speak? Do you use big, flowery language or a specific kind of jargon? Maybe you're pretty serious, or you're known for cracking jokes. And last is purpose. What is the intent of what you're sharing? Are you trying to inform your audience about your process or engage them with what experiencing your art feels like? So are you selling tickets to a show, or are you just trying to delight them with something beautiful to make them smile or think about a thing? So one of the biggest mistakes I see in marketing is casting too wide of a net and trying to appeal to everyone possible. So that's why for number 4, I'm saying write to one person. And I think especially when it comes to the previous slide and finding your voice, if it starts to feel like, my gosh, I don't know how to find my voice. These are so many things to consider. A great place to start is here, write to one person. So when you cast this wide net and try to talk to everybody, what this does is it waters down your voice, and it creates a shallow connection with a lot of people compared to creating a deep connection with a smaller subgroup of people. And I'm personally a firm believer in quality over quantity when it comes to marketing reach. I so often see folks who get stuck on the number of followers they have on Instagram or the number of emails they have on their email list. And these numbers are fun to track and they are a great indicator of growth. However, I want you all to have a list of followers that are also buying from you. I want you to have a list of emails that interact with your brand, that ask you questions. I want you to have conversations with the humans who show up to your shows and buy your work and tell their friends to do the same. So one of the best ways to start to hone your voice, like I said, and to build this rich connection with your ideal audience, which you've identified in that customer avatar, is to write to that one person. So imagine that social media post that you're struggling to write, it's going straight to them, to that customer avatar, that one person, as if you were writing them a personal note about this piece of work. Or imagine that email newsletter that you're struggling to write. Write it as if it were going to the person who last purchased something from you. People connect to people. That's all marketing is ultimately about, but especially art. You're sharing your work, which is an extension of your worldview and your thoughts and your creativity, which is a vulnerable thing to do. And so the people who are connected to your work, they're connected to that piece of you. And they want more of that, not some stripped down, impersonal message, that you send with a coupon or something like that. So if you're feeling stuck and you don't know what to write or how to write it, think of that one person. Next up, use a call to action. So what is a call to action? Simply put, you're telling your audience what to do next, what action to take. When I've evaluated marketing content for small businesses in the past, I've noticed that this is typically one of the first things missing. And I think it's because we tend to be pretty shy. But I firmly believe that every piece of content you create should have a call to action. So this means every post, every email, every poster, every video, even the conversations you have in person should have a clear and concise call to action. So I like to think of these calls to action in two categories: hard calls to action and soft calls to action. Hard calls to action are a direct ask for support. Go to this link, buy this ticket, sign up for this list, pay for this piece of work, RSVP to this event, click this button. Now, soft calls to action are a little bit less of a lift. You're still making a direct ask for support, but it's just a little easier, a little lighter, a little softer. Comment below, save this post, share this email, tag a friend, answer a question, take a photo of this poster that's hanging on the wall. So when I say every piece of content that you have should have a call to action, I don't believe they all have to be these hard asks. You don't have to try to sell something every time you share something. But what you do want to do is encourage a continued conversation. And as humans, we need to be prompted for this. And these conversations allow you to continue to build connection with your customers. And when it comes to things like social media, we know that the social media algorithms prioritize engagement on posts. So if you're getting your audience to like or comment, share or save your post, that's really supportive to you in the long run too. So it's a win-win either way, but only if you present the opportunity and make a clear call for what you need. We engage, all of us, we engage with marketing messaging constantly. And we've all trained ourselves to breeze past what doesn't catch our eye or what isn't really easy to execute. So it may seem really obvious to you that to buy a piece of artwork from you, your audience can Google your name and then find your website and then find the piece of artwork and then put their credit card in and buy it. It's not that complicated. We do it all the time. However, it's much easier for them to do that if you make a clear call to action and make it easy for them to move forward. Interested in purchasing this piece of artwork? Click this link right here and shop now. So lastly is evaluate how everything is going. Marketing is ultimately an experiment. And as you try new tools and integrate new habits into your marketing strategy, watch your performance. Notice how your interactions change. Notice how it feels to create content as you start to hone your voice. Maybe you've been able to start to create habits that are helpful or find tools that make the processes easier for you. Maybe you've also learned that there's a certain kind of content that is just way too draining for you to do. Or maybe you discover that there's something you'd like to practice more or that you'd like to find some support in to get somebody to offer you some advice or maybe even to hire help. So from a more technical standpoint, you can keep track of digital analytics for most social media, email, and website platforms. And these will tell you things like traffic, engagement, reach, how your performance looks, and how it's changed over time. This is measured by days and months and years. And all this information is really helpful, but don't discredit what you notice offline too. Have you made more sales than usual? Did someone reach out to connect on a project because they saw your website? Or did the last show you have a record attendance and you did a different distribution of posters this time? So just start to pay attention to what's happening and notice if you can find any patterns. It's with this information that you can adjust your sales for your next project or campaign. So just a quick review of everything we went over. The 6 steps to marketing yourself as an artist is 1, to know your audience, to make that customer avatar, to become familiar with them. 2, identify your platform or platforms. What's a good fit for you to use for marketing? 3, find your unique voice. Take some time away from what everyone else is doing and try to find what feels authentic to you. 4, if you're feeling stuck, write to one person. Make it feel personal. It makes it easier for you and it makes it resonate more with them. 5, use a call to action. Just a clear and concise request for what you want them to do next, whether it's a hard ask or a soft ask. And last but not least, evaluate. Take a look at how things have gone and make plans for what you do next. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions. And as you type those into the Q&A section, I'm going to go over some quick information, but I promise we're going to get back to them. The Wyoming Women's Business Center is made possible through several partnership agencies, and our primary funding comes from the U.S. Small Business Administration and the Wyoming Business Council. We are so thankful for the support and guidance and look forward to the work we get to do ahead. I also like to remind people that the WWBC is a standalone 501c3 nonprofit, and every donation made to our organization is tax deductible and goes directly to our mission of empowering Wyoming entrepreneurs, especially women, through those 5 programs I discussed at the beginning of this presentation. I always like to remind everyone that every micro gift is as important as every micro enterprise in a Wyoming community. So if you feel this webinar was valuable to you, I encourage you to go to our website and consider a micro gift. Lastly, before we hop into those questions, if you enjoyed today's training, you can find more of our upcoming and always free webinars at wyomingwomen.org and click on the training tab to see what's ahead to register for those for free. So remember, if you can't make it to the live event, no stress. All registrants do receive a link to the recording in their inbox to watch as your schedule allows. We have a full month of really great content on financials and business planning, marketing, and much more. Our business education program continues to expand and is featuring content from our whole team here at the WWBC. So I really encourage you to keep an eye on this page. And one more thing, if you've considered selling your work at the Works of Wyoming store, which is the brick and mortar store in downtown Laramie, as well as an online store, it's a part of the Wyoming Women's Business Center's Artist Development Program, and the call for artists is currently open. We are pleased to share that 2021 was a record-breaking sales year for the store, thanks to the beautiful work of Wyoming's artists. So if you would like to learn more about participating in this year's call for artists, go ahead and go to wyomingwomen.org. You can find that on our homepage right now, actually. All right, let's get into those questions. Can we see the slide for social media categories? I am not sure. I know which one you're referencing. Yeah, I am not sure. Lynette, if you could say more in the chat, that would help me out, because I don't know which slide you're wanting to see. This recording will be available in your inbox shortly, though, so you'll be able to access it that way. Okay, it looks like there's some questions in the chat too. Is there COVID grant money available this year? There is. The COVID support program is over, so this is not available, Kirby. Is a focus group a good way to call people in your audience to evaluate, or is that more in the realm of research? You know, Janelle, I think a focus group is a good way to evaluate marketing, but it's kind of, I think it's more casual, really. I don't think it has to be as formal as a focus group as you think of when you're doing research for a product or something like that. But I do think, you know, I think as small businesses and as micro enterprises and artists and entrepreneurs, I think we kind of have these baked in focus groups, which are our friends and family, right? So you can ask your friends and family for input on what they think, on what resonates. Georgia, I do not have any contacts. I apologize, but I would suggest reaching out to businesses in your community and seeing who they use and going from there, or just doing a quick Google search. And Lynette, that slide is on the screen. So I'll give you just a moment to take a screenshot of that, and then I'm gonna close things up. Thank you all for joining me this afternoon. Just a reminder that there will be a survey that pops up after I end this meeting. If you could take just a few moments, it's just 6 quick questions, and stay online and answer these, that would be incredibly helpful. So thank you all for attending. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. We're almost to the weekend. Bye.